Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very, very happy Independence Day to all of you. Today, as we celebrate 75 years of our independence, Prime Minister Modi led the nation in those celebrations from the ramparts of the Red Fort this morning, when he hoisted the tricolour and called for the country to take 5 pledges. The Panch Pran, as he called it, which would change the course of this country for the better. The Panch Pran that would ensure a golden India by 2047, when we as a country would celebrate our 100 years of independence. Prime Minister Modi dwelt on the ideas for the future, spelled out the vision for the next 25 years, and painted the big picture that we all as Indians needed to see. But while the Prime Minister spoke of this golden age, he stressed on overcoming 2 big challenges, 2 evils that need to be weeded out: corruption and dynasty politics. He said India needs to be vigilant not just against corruption but also against corrupt netas. They need to be punished, was the Prime Minister's clarion call. Dynasty politics is ruining our institutions and hindering the nation's progress. Listen in to how the Prime Minister launched this unsparing attack in his 82-minute speech that he made from the Red Fort today.
मैं सबकी चर्चा न करते हुए 2 पर जरूर चर्चा करना चाहता हूं। एक है भ्रष्टाचार, दूसरा है भाई भतीजावाद, परिवारवाद। भारत जैसे लोकतंत्र में जहां लोग गरीबी से जूझ रहे हैं, जब ये तरफ से देखते हैं, एक तरफ वो लोग हैं जिनके पास रहने के लिए जगह नहीं है, दूसरी तरफ वो तरह लोग हैं जिनको अपना चोरी किया हुआ माल रखने के लिए जगह नहीं है। ये स्थिति अच्छी नहीं है दोस्तों, और इसलिए हमें भ्रष्टाचार के खिलाफ पूरी ताकत से लड़ना है। भ्रष्टाचार दीमक की तरह देश को खोखला कर रहा है। मुझे इसके खिलाफ लड़ाई लड़नी है, लड़ाई को तेज करना है, निर्णायक मोड़ पे लेकर के ही जाना है। देश में भ्रष्टाचार के प्रति नफरत तो दिखती है, व्यक्त भी होती है, लेकिन कभी कभी भ्रष्टाचारियों के प्रति उदारता बरती जाती है। किसी भी देश में ये शोभा नहीं देगा। कई लोग तो इतनी बेशर्मी तक चले जाते हैं कि कोर्ट में सजा हो चुकी हो, भ्रष्टाचारी सिद्ध हो चुका हो, जेल जाना तय हो चुका हो, जेल गुजार रहे हो, उसके बावजूद भी उनका महिमा मंडन करने में लगे रहते हैं। परिवारवाद ने देश के सामर्थ्य को सबसे ज्यादा अन्याय किया है। परिवारवादी राजनीति परिवार की भलाई के लिए होती है, उसको देश की भलाई से कोई लेना देना नहीं होता है।
Now, here's why Prime Minister Modi's onslaught on corruption and dynasty politics is extremely significant. When he said that some in this country were finding it difficult to hide their money, he was making a clear reference to the wads of cash that were recovered from former Trinamool Congress's minister's aides' home. And he said this very, very pointedly, that while they were looking for places to hide them, referring to the multiple flats that had come out in the open where these notes and bundles of money were kept, at a time when there are many in this country who have to sleep hungry. A veiled attempt perhaps at the Aam Aadmi Party too, when the Prime Minister spoke of the need to hate the corrupt and view them with contempt rather than trying to give them recognition and try to protect them. And then his second attack was on Parivarvaad and Bhai Bhatijawad jibes, which come at a time when a former ally has dumped the BJP in Bihar for a family-run political party. The Prime Minister did not name any party, but when he said that politics of Parivarvaad does not allow merit to prosper, it was clear who he was referring to. The Congress took that bait as expected by the Prime Minister, and the BJP scoffed at him for using this day and this platform to settle political scores. They said the family that the Prime Minister refers to is the only family that is fighting for this country. Listen in.
Dynasty politics are much more in BJP compared to any other party. Entire country is facing problems. Rather than talking about all those things, this dirty politics is not expected from the Prime Minister.
It was not necessary to bring up these issues at the Independence Day. Let us strengthen democracy. That should have been his call. Unfortunately, he was trying to score political points.
Modi ji should first realize that if he wants to end Parivarvaad, he should end right from his own Bharatiya Janata Party. There are many Parivarvaad within Bharatiya Janata Party.
जो संघ परिवार का है उस पर कोई कार्रवाई नहीं, और जो बाकी है वो अगर भ्रष्टाचार नहीं भी करे तो आप केंद्रीय एजेंसियों को उनके पीछे लगा के अपना राजनीतिक हित साधना चाहते हैं.
Deep what you call relationship with corruption, especially when the corrupt are part of my party, I shall not move. When the corrupt are not in my party, then I will create some hue and cry about it. That is the position taken by the Bharatiya Janata Party. So these words actually coming from the mouth of the Prime Minister does not particularly weigh very much as far as we are concerned.
So the legitimate question that I want to ask on the Newshour tonight: why won't the opposition unite for war on graft? That's the question, and that's the debate coming up on the other side.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And joining me on the debate tonight, GVL Narshimha Rao, Member of Parliament and National Spokesperson of the BJP, Dr. Anand Ranganathan, author, Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst, Riju Dutta, spokesperson of the Trinamool Congress, Ghanshyam Tiwari, National Spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. And I want to begin with my question to Mr. Riju Dutta of the TMC. Mr. Riju Dutta, do you believe that fighting against corruption is not something that this country should do? Why then is Mr. Saugata Roy coming out and talking about petty politics? Isn't corruption a larger issue? Politics, no politics, businessmen, banks, etc., etc. Can you say that fight against corruption is not a legitimate objective for this country called India to have on the 75 years of completion of independence?
Navika ji, first of all, a very, very happy Independence Day to you and all my esteemed panelists. And I completely agree with you, and I completely agree with the Honorable Prime Minister when he talks about fighting with corruption. And anybody who is corrupt and anybody who is caught in corruption, who is pronounced by the court of law as corrupt, should be behind bars, no questions asked. But when the Prime Minister talks about this, the Prime Minister also should introspect in his own party. He made that famous speech when he came to power that I will bring the black money back. What happened to Mehul Choksi, Vijay Mallya, Lalit Modi, Nirav Modi? All flew from this country. Nothing came back. Secondly, he talks about corruption. Let me talk about his own union cabinet. 39% of the union cabinet currently has criminal charges against them. From the UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, who had 37 criminal cases against him, to Ajay Mishra, Teni's son, Ajay Mishra, Teni still in the cabinet, to Vyapam scam convicted Shivraj Chauhan, to Hemant Biswa Sarma convicted in Naroda Sharoda EDI charge sheet mentioned, to the most important, our Neta Pratipaksh of Bengal, who's mentioned in the ED CBI charge sheet, seen having a cup of tea with the Home Minister of the country 2 days ago. So I think it is very good the Prime Minister wants, the message that the Prime Minister wants to send to the country, but it also sounds very rich, and he should introspect in his own party, weed out all these corrupt leaders, get rid of his union cabinet and start afresh. That will give a better platform for India to go forward till our 100 years, which is the projected plan for the Prime Minister.
Mr. GVL Narshimha Rao, Mr. Riju Dutta makes a scathing attack that there is no investigation into your own. In fact, he also compares apples and oranges when he talks about criminal charges. Criminal charges not necessarily are corruption charges. So when he talks about Ajay Mishra Teni and when he talks about Yogi Adityanath, these are not corruption charges, but these are charges of other criminal cases that have been foisted, which politicians normally call politically motivated cases. But the fact is Mr. Riju Dutta running away from the wads of notes that have been found in the AIDS house, a very senior minister's AIDS house in West Bengal? And today when they begin to talk about ED and CBI naming Shubhendu Adhikari, at least is it a step forward? Their faith and belief in the ED and CBI seem to have returned.
Navika ji, to you and all the panelists and the viewers of Times Now, a very, very happy Independence Day, 75th year of Independence Day greetings to all. I think Honorable Prime Minister's speech this morning, I think is one of the most inspirational speeches that any leader of the nation has delivered till date. I think it was full of aspirations. It had set the agenda for the country for the next 25 years while expressing satisfaction for what this country has achieved in 75 years. Honorable Prime Minister was very direct when he said there are areas where we certainly as a nation collectively need to work towards realizing the goals of India. I think, and the two priorities that he mentioned towards the end of his speech, I think they ought to be the priorities of every single party and every single leader in this country, of every single citizen in this country, a fight against corruption. I think Honorable Prime Minister talked about many vows that we all should take. I expect friends from the opposition, Mr. Datta, to take this vow not to spread rumors and not to indulge in falsehood. He said somebody was convicted in Vyapam. I don't know which leader was convicted in Vyapam. He has taken names of Chief Minister without having an iota of shame. I think you cannot, and the number of cases that he talked about have nothing to do with any kind of corruption or civil, any kind of charges. Most of them have been facing charges of political struggles, which all leaders in political parties do face. But in 8 years, nearly 8 years, 3 months, Honorable Prime Minister has delivered a spotless government. As opposition is unable to even point a finger at any decision taken by the Honorable Prime Minister and his government in 8 years. I think he has clearly, I think in 75th year, he has set the goal of achieving in 25 years. And he said we will stop nothing of a developed India. The target is to have India as a developed nation in 25 years and to address all economic, social and political ills that this country faces. And I know when he talks about Bhai Bhatijavad, Parivarvaad, family dynastic politics, it certainly hurts a lot of them. You see the same thing in TMC, Bhatijavad. You see the same thing in parties like the Samajwadi Party, which is nothing like another version of the Congress, a family party. And when Prime Minister talks about corruption, I expect the entire opposition to join hand in hand. But then they all have their hands deep in corruption. And therefore, they would rather fight the Prime Minister who is fighting corruption rather than join the fight against corruption. I think this country certainly, he has held a mirror to the political parties and leaders in this country, and he has laid out the nation's priorities very clearly. He talked about gender justice, he talked about gender respect. I think he has clearly laid out a roadmap for the country for 25 years. People are in tune with him. I expect the political parties, he made this point very clear, He said, including myself, we are all citizens, we all have our rights,
Absolutely.
we all have our responsibilities. Next 25 years, we must dedicate to the development of this country by exercising our responsibilities, by fulfilling our responsibilities, not to claim of our rights alone.
Well, hands are going up on the panel. Coming to you, Riju Dutta, but let me get in Tehseen Poonawala first. Tehseen, the Prime Minister talks about 5 prans, or the 5 promises that we need to make to ourselves. The first pran is the goal of developed India. Can you disagree with that? Yes or no?
No, but I do agree that if Modi is Prime Minister, we will be developed.
I'll give you time.
But I believe Modi is Prime Minister, we will be developed.
My friend. I'll give you time, my friend. I'm just saying, do you agree with this promise that we need to make to ourselves, which is to go towards making of a developed India? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
All right. Second promise, remove any trace of the colonial mindset. Do you agree with this? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
Okay. Third, he says take pride in our roots. Agree with that? Any dispute with that promise to ourselves?
I take pride in my roots. I don't know if the BJP does.
Fantastic. So fourth, pran, unity. Do you believe that unity is something that this country needs?
As long as BJP is there, it's difficult to achieve. We need it.
Yes or no?
I believe we need it. We definitely
Okay. So fifth promise, sense of duty among citizens. Do we all need to have duties along with the rights that we have in the Constitution? Do you agree with that premise?
Absolutely.
So what do you not agree with the Prime Minister? You almost sound like somebody who belongs to the BJP, because what I want to prove to you is these are universal truths. It's got nothing to do with party lines. It's got nothing to do with north of India, south of India, east of India, west of India. These are universal truths that require citizens to appreciate and promise once again to ourselves to bring back the glorious days to India. So where is the problem, Tehseen Poonawala? Why are you so upset with corruption and Bhai Bhatijawad and Parivarvaad? Because those are the two that you can't do without. Isn't that it?
Namaskar, Navika ji. Happy Independence Day to you, to all my fellow panelists, to all your viewers. And I'm sure you'll give me the independence to make my point of view, because you've asked such a long question. And I concur with what the Honorable Prime Minister said. I'm completely on page. But beyond these 5 universal truths, there's a larger universal truth, which is to achieve these 5 universal truths. The larger universal truth will have to be achieved. We'll have to remove the BJP from power immediately. Because as long as BJP is there, the Achhe Din will never come. Because like you said, we have to regain the lost glory days which we've lost in the last 8 years under Narendra Modi. Now let me speak with data, because I'm a man of science and data. Right, we have to
when
fight
did
corruption.
that happen? Dr. Anand Ranganathan?
Has
Tehseen Poonawala now become the latest scientist in this country?
Well, I'll tell you since when I've been a man of science and data. I've been a man of science and data when the Honorable Prime Minister... Sure, but Amit Shah is also a farmer. Amit Shah is also a farmer. Just for the record. But let me come to the pertinent point. I've been a man of science and data since the Honorable Prime Minister gave you an interview, Navika ji. And in that interview, he said, and I quote the Honorable Prime Minister, goes to you. Sure. He said that, there is no data for employment and unemployment. That is the state of our country, and the Prime Minister was misguiding and likely he got caught. So I've been a data scientist since then, but let me just give you some more science and data. Look, the Honorable Prime Minister said, let's go by each promise. Yeah, sure, but let me finish, then I'll give. The Honorable Prime Minister said we have to fight corruption. Nobody has a doubt about it. How will we fight corruption if his conviction rate is 0.5%? Conviction rate has gone lower. Please allow me to finish. Now, what does ADR say? ADR says the most corrupt people accused of dacoity are in the BJP, 83 MPs and MLAs. Fact check me.
Riju Dutta has given those points, so you may skip those. Don't waste time. Don't waste time. Anything new that you have to say?
I'm adding, just allow me, please. I've just started. Now, the Honorable Prime Minister said after demonetization, cash will disappear from the economy. RBI says cash has gone up 64%. The Honorable Prime Minister said those new 2,000 rupee notes will stop the fake notes. RBI data says 151% rise in fake notes. Prime Minister is fighting corruption. Now, let's come to the second data. Prime Minister says we have to fight those who have been accused of serious crimes. In the Prime Minister's cabinet, in his cabinet was Nihal Chand, accused of rape. He continued to be a minister. In the Prime Minister's cabinet, but the Prime Minister didn't remove him. Prime Minister didn't remove him. Prime Minister didn't take it.
Tehseen Poonawala, the interview that you're referring to was 2.5 years ago. But I'm so glad you're such an avid watcher of Times now that you remember that interview line by line. How much you concentrate on the words of the Prime Minister is heartening. And number 3, let me also tell you, you said the cash has been increasing. Well, a lot of that has been found in Bengal. Search is on for where else it can be found. So don't worry. If despite demo there is cash in the market, then you know where it is being hidden. And let me get in Dr. Anand Ranganathan. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, you know why when it comes to the issue of corruption or issue of dynastic politics, do the Congress and the opposition leaders go so much on the defensive? Isn't it true? Isn't it true? And everybody, can see what's happening to politics in our country. Congress party start with the largest opposition party. It's a party of the Gandhis, for the Gandhis, by the Gandhis, and Nehrus, if you take history into account. Apart from that, if you look at Samajwadi Party, it is a party of the Yadavs, the Mulayam Singh Yadav Parivar. Now Akhilesh Yadav holds the roost. If you look at the Trinamool Congress, Bhai Bhatijawad, well, Mamata Banerjee, Abhishek Banerjee. Go down south, DMK, family party. Also TRS, family party. Jagan Reddy, family party. So where is the fault that the Prime Minister has made in the speech that he's made?
Good evening, thank you to all my panelists. First of all, wishing you and everyone else and all our viewers a very happy Independence Day. And can I please, if it is only to garner 1 extra minute from you, compliment you on the wonderful sari. It goes on to show that we Tamilians not only make the best Mysore parts, we make the best saris as well. So,
absolutely.
Well
no quarrel with that. Well, I'm also partial to Banaras, but never mind. And Odisha and Hyderabad. But go on.
Yes, no, Navika, you're right. Look, the Prime Minister, through his Red Fort speech, set the stage for what needs to be done by us, the Indians, in the next 25 years. And he is right on all counts. Even Tehseen has agreed. Well, to be sure, anyone would be, Navika. Because the easy thing to do is to talk on what needs to be done. The difficult thing to do is to implement it. Let us take the curse of dynasty, the 2 things we talked about, dynasty and corruption. Let's take the curse of dynasty that Modi talked about. 45 BJP MPs and more than 92 BJP MLAs have dynastic linkages. And the BJP defends that there are only 1 generation linkages, unlike the dendritic linkages in the Congress and regional parties is thin. Because even 1 generation dynasty linkage can endow nepotism, preferential, non-meritorious advantage and privilege, and can and does take away the opportunity for a non-dynasty candidate. Remember, in politics, first mover advantage is everything. Besides, this is a classic case of moral relativism trying to rationalize your hypocrisy. Yes, the Prime Minister is right on his commentary on corruption. But is his party free of corruption?
Even
yes.
On dynasty, may I interrupt you, Anand Ranganathan? Even on dynasty, how many of those family people are ministers? So if nepotism is bringing advantage, then you should also, look at that aspect.
Yes, Navika, there are many who are. I have a list with me. In fact, 2 months ago, I was invited by the BJP to take part and give a talk in an event, one-day event called Dynasty, a threat to democracy. And it was inaugurated by Mr. Devendra Fadnavis. And I started off by narrating all these facts, plus saying that it's ironical that Mr. Fadnavis is inaugurating an event and he himself is a first-generation dynast. So yes, there are many ministers who are. This is a problem that infects every political party. For the Prime Minister to say it doesn't, for not to admit that it is not the curse on the BJP is plain wrong. Now, can I please take a couple of minutes because the second issue is more important of corruption. With no permission, Navika. Can I please?
Go ahead.
Thank you. As I was saying, is his party free of corruption? Yes. He is personally not corrupt. Perhaps perhaps incorruptible. But then what is corruption? Is it only to be judged in cash? Is it looking the other way also corruption? Modi said 8 years ago that the government has no business to be in business. But all what his government has done in the last 8 years is to be in the business of business. The largest, biggest, most debilitating resource-cutting corruption is government control and maintenance of public sector units. We have 1825 PSUs. Quarter of them are non-functional. A fifth of our annual budgetary allocation of 28 to 30 lakh crores goes in propping up PSUs except in India. There has been zero privatization. The PSUs that are sold are bought by other PSUs. Just last week, Modi injected 1.5 lakh crores into the loss-making behemoth BSNL, the new Air India. Is that not corruption? Nationalized banks are rife with corruption and have NPA totaling 6 lakh crores. Is that not corruption? Government control of temple land means 113,500 Hindu temples are deprived of lakhs of crores of yearly income. Is that not corruption? Average state debt to GDP is 35% highest in 15 years. But every government, including the BJP, indulges in massive loan waivers and CDs. Is that not corruption? Agriculture contributes only 13% of our GDP. And yes, 44% of our 485 million from labor force is involved in it. In the West, it is 2%. Production to purchase the entire thing is actually called medieval. And yes, Modi repeats the farm bills in turn, helping the corrupt middlemen in destroying the honest farmer. Is that not corruption? Last Navika, just 30 seconds, I beg of you. Accepting dozens of corrupt politicians from other parties into the BJP fold, inducting a Congress leader accused of child rape in Goa, drug peddling in Manipur, making a Congress leader in Karnataka facing 15 forest crime charges as the forest minister in the BJP government. Is that not corruption? उम्र भर मोदी यही भूल करता रहा, धूल चेहरे पे थी, आईना साफ करता रहा.
GVL Narshimha Rao, you know, these are the people who actually support Prime Minister Modi, who also have problems with some of these policy initiatives and the lacunae that still exist.
A lot of what Anandji has mentioned has nothing to do with corruption. Giving what he calls freebies or some kind of a welfare schemes, I would certainly not consider it corruption. How can you, under what definition can you put that? And also we have ensured there is DBT, direct benefit transfer. So we have reduced delivery theft to the barest minimum, to near zero level. That is controlling corruption. That's not causing corruption. Then as regards Dynasty, there is a huge difference that people do understand. BJP is not owned by one biological family, whereas most political parties in this country are literally owned by families, biological families as private family enterprises. That's a world of difference. Even there, you see, Dynasty, there has been a conscious effort in the last 8 years to reduce the number of Dynasts being given tickets. Honorable Prime just disclosing something to you. In the last UP Assembly elections, Honorable Prime Minister told everyone, no Dynast will be given ticket, don't even come and ask for it. I will take that decision, nobody else will. So I think that's the kind of an assertion. So I think there is a temptation on the part of every leader to bring in his family. But Prime Minister and the BJP together have decided that we will not let this culture prevail. But how can you compare us with the Samajwadi Party? How can you compare us with the Congress Party, which are owned by, how can you compare us with the Shiv Sena or any other party from Kashmir to Tamil Nadu? They are all family-owned enterprises. BJP is not. People understand this difference, however much you want to confuse them. So they do understand that BJP is a political party where individuals based on merit, we have had people, ordinary party workers being elevated to the ranks of chief minister. Prime Minister himself is not a dynast. He has not brought anybody from his family. Can you tell me any other corporator in this country? I challenge you. Can you tell me any one corporator in this country who has not tried to bring his family into politics? Prime Minister Narendra Modi's commitment is like that. He has not brought anybody from his family into any position of power. So people understand the difference between our leader, our party and other political parties.
Well, so Ghanshyam Tiwari.
10 seconds. Can I please rebut?
Okay, Anand Ranganathan.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just a 10-second rebuttal to Mr. GVL Narshimha Rao, a wonderful person, very erudite. You know, you remember when he had demanded an ED raid and had written to the Rajya Sabha Ethics Committee alleging involvement of PDP's Y.S. Chaudhary in, and I quote him, I'm quoting Mr. Rao, massive financial bungling and a fraud of 5,700 crores. And Mr. Rao sought his disqualification over court again, serious breach of ethics. Can Mr. GVL Rao please tell me where is Mr. Y.S. Chaudhary now, in which party?
Yes, GVL, respond. Specific question, need a specific answer.
I will respond. I think it's very true. I have never withdrawn my complaint before the committee, and the ED inquiries that were underway have continued, and they have progressed. Please do, please do inquire about the status of those inquiries. Nobody has been given a clean sheet. Anyone who has faced those inquiries,
how come you don't want to inquire about those?
Let me be very honest with you.
Well, GVL Narshimha Rao, you know, when it comes to getting people from other political parties to the BJP, when the political expediency arises, well, the BJP has been very, very open and not sticking to the standards that it sets. And today you're saying freebies are not bribes and that is not corruption. Well, just last week the Prime Minister was speaking in a different language. So GVL Narshimha Rao, some of these things, some of these things, you know, even the BJP will have to stop dishing out hypocritical points of view. It sounds very well on Independence Day, but the fact is that you have to revisit your own hypocrisies, just like other political parties need to revisit theirs. So Ghanshyam Tiwari, I want to ask you this question. You're an educated young person. Do you think you can ever aspire to be the chief of your party, the Samajwadi Party? I want to ask you because many people would want young, well-read, erudite people, smart people to lead political parties in this country. But is it possible?
Navika ji, greetings to you, my fellow co-panelists and every one of your viewers. Let us hope and with determination and self-belief work towards making India a developed country and a better nation for the future generation. As far as the Prime Minister's speech is concerned, and I'll come to your question. As far as the Prime Minister's speech is concerned, I must tell you that if you look at the Government of India website and you look at the speech of the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, 15th August 1947. Do we know how long was that speech? The Government of India website says it is a 4-page speech. So when you have a lot to tell and you can say that with honesty, patriotism and commitment, you don't require too many words. You don't require 90 minutes. The Prime Minister was a man of substance in his own words. Then he would, in 10 minutes today, would have said that 2014, I promised 2 crore jobs. Here is the report card. I promised Kala Dhan Aayega. Here is the report card. I promised that by 2022, farmer incomes will double. Here's the report card. I promised by 2022, everybody will have a Pakka Ghar. Here's the report card. I promised Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. Here is the report card. The reality is today, the moment he said Dynasty, Jai Shah started printing on Twitter. The moment you speak about corruption, take the financial capital of India, Mumbai. Look at the states around Mumbai, Goa, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Gujarat. Can you name any single state where BJP has not indulged in corruption towards their mad rush and blinded mission to form a government? One state, can GVL say that? The answer is no. So for Prime Minister, it is difficult for me on this day to admit that the Prime Minister's words are becoming hollower by the day. It is important for the nation. A Prime Minister is popular. His words should mean something, not just a good speech that could be played and clapped by GVL Narshimha Rao, but in reality, can sound hollow. As far as your question is concerned, I think every one of us who believes in democracy, in the Constitution, believes that in this country, when you work for the people, you can be whoever you want. When you joined Times of India, you did believe that one day you would lead this organization, notwithstanding the family that runs this organization. So I do not believe that anyone of us
Let's not compare a professional setup with your political party, my friend. you know, there is a difference. The family that owns this group is not in the business of running the newspaper or the channels. They only provide the resources. It is the professionals, and this is exactly what I mean. Professionals run this institution called Times Now and Times of India and Times Now Navbharat and the other publications and channels that we have. But Ghanshyam Tiwari, I'm asking you, can you ever be the president of the Samajwadi Party? Yes or no? It's a simple, you don't have to go all over the, media houses in the country. You only have to answer for yourself.
Why are you sensitive to a simple example? I'm saying a very simple thing.
I'm not sensitive, my dear friend, and I'm glad some of us are sensitive in this country 75 years after, independence as well. We need to have some sensitivity.
I believe that every one of the panelists here and every citizen who's watching this show.
Can you be the Samajwadi Party chief, yes or no? You answer the question, sir.
Please allow me to answer.
Yes, please. It's a yes or no answer.
Every one of you believe that in Indian democracy, you can be whoever you want. You can be the prime minister, you can be president, you can
Anand
be chief
Ranganathan,
minister. And no one
do you believe Ghanshyam Tiwari can be the president of Samajwadi Party?
No one here can dictate what you can.
No, Ghanshyam ji, please. Yeah. No, Navika, Ghanshyam ji sure can be the president of Samajwadi Party, but वो bracket में बाद में Ghanshyam add करेंगे उसमें G, Samajwadi Party G. But in one sense, it's a GVL Narshimha Rao. Gutta is absolutely right. We have 6 panelists out here, 3 of them on the lower panel. They can never dream to be the presidents of their party. Whereas, as Mr. GVL Narshimha Rao said, Modi came from nowhere. He was a chai wala, self-admittedly, and he became the prime minister. Same is Mr. JP Nanda. So yes, there is dynasty in BJP as well, as I said. But it is not to as that gangrenous level as the other 3 parties in the lower panel whose representatives are on the
Mr.
panel.
Abdul Basit of the RJD is joining us on the Newshour tonight. And Mr. Abdul Basit, आप बन सकते हैं? आप बन सकते हैं RJD के चीफ? आप बन सकते हैं RJD के अध्यक्ष?
देखिए, ये पार्टियों के मौलिक जो पार्टियों को आंदोलन के तहत खींच के लाए हैं, जिनका पहला अधिकार जिस प्रकार कांग्रेस की सैक्रिफाइस नीतियों के लिए पूरा कांग्रेस परिवार ने आज तक त्याग दिया, उसी प्रकार से राहुल गांधी जी आज अध्यक्ष पद पर है या सोनिया गांधी जी अध्यक्ष पद पर। इसी प्रकार देखिए सब आंदोलन
बाकी लोग जो है उन्होंने कोई काम नहीं किया।
सारी पार्टियां आंदोलन के तहत आई है। लालू यादव जी का सैक्रिफाइस देश ने देखा है, उन्होंने इतना
नहीं लालू जी का सैक्रिफाइस देखा है, लेकिन डाउन द लाइन क्या बच्चों के लिए गारंटीड सीट है क्या?
और पार्टी के लिए बड़ा काम कर, तो मैं भी अध्यक्ष हो सकता हूँ आरजेडी का, ऐसी बात नहीं। बट उसके लिए सैक्रिफाइस बहुत जरूरी है। आप सैक्रिफाइस नोट कीजिए, गांधी परिवार के सैक्रिफाइस नोट कीजिए, हमारे आरजेडी के सैक्रिफाइस, कितना टाइम कितना समय हमें जेलों में हमारे नेताओं को रखा गया। तो सैक्रिफाइस जो है वो बहुत बड़ी त्याग जो है देश के लिए। उसी प्रकार
तेजस्वी जी का क्या सैक्रिफाइस है देश को बता दीजिए।
बीजेपी में क्या है, जितना बड़ा पैसे वाला है, जितना बड़ा
आनंद रंगनाथन, can you compare Tejaswi Yadav sacrifices with Lalu Prasad Yadav sacrifices? Can you?
Yes, no, Tejaswi has sacrificed by not stealing Chara. Please admit that. So, but I also wanted to say one thing here for the nth time, Navika. ये जो कहते रहते हैं, Tehseen, I hope he agrees with me. I'm talking only facts now. जो ये आरजेडी की रिप्रेजेंटेटिव भी रिस्पेक्टफुली कह रहे हैं कांग्रेस ने सैक्रिफाइस, ये जो कांग्रेस है आज की कांग्रेस, दिस इज नॉट द इंडियन नेशनल कांग्रेस सर, जिन्होंने देश को आजादी दिलाई। 1969 में इंदिरा गांधी वो थ्रोन आउट ऑफ
एक मिनट अब्दुल बासित साहब एक मिनट प्लीज स्टॉप स्पीकिंग ओवर ईच अदर। आप बोल चुके हैं, आपका फेडर लोअर कर रही हूँ। आनंद रंगनाथन raising a question to Tehseen. I'm coming to you, Riju Dutta, I'm coming to you.
Yes, and I hope Tehseen on Independence Day will not lie. In 1969, the original Indian National Congress threw out Indira Gandhi. She formed Congress R standing for requisitionist. Congress R then was renamed to Congress I. It split. It did not rename it. It split. It formed, Indira Gandhi formed Congress Congress Indira. Only in 1983 did the election commission say that yes, you can call the INC. किस एंगल से ये स्वतंत्रता सेनानियों की पार्टी हो गई है? ये तो your legacy is Indira Gandhi. Tehseen, your legacy is emergency.
Well, Riju Dutta wants to come in. I'm coming to you, Tehseen, but Riju Dutta has been raising his hand since the beginning. Yes, Riju Dutta, where is the problem of corruption?
Yes.
Should we not talk about it? Should we not talk about dynasties? And the dynastic parties are right here on this panel, from RJD to Samajwadi Party to Congress, now to Trinamool.
Right, okay. Navika ji, just give me the courtesy of time. First, I want to answer Dr. Anand Ranganathan. He presented fantastic facts today. Just one place where he went wrong is that Trinamool Congress is the only political party, apart from BJP in this entire country, where for the last 25 years, since the inception of the party, the president is Mr. Subrata Bokshi, who does not belong to any family. Number one point. Now, let me answer the honorable member of parliament here. I am shocked, I am gobsmacked that the honorable MP is either he is misinformed, or he is trying to protect BJP, or he has not done his homework before coming on a esteemed channel like Times Now. Let me tell him, he said that there are petty criminal cases and no charges of corruption. Sir, for your kind knowledge, for further reference, Shubhendu Adhikari and Hemanta Biswa Sharma, your Chief Minister of Assam, is mentioned in the ED and CBI charge sheet of the Sharoda scam. The education minister who was arrested in Madhya Pradesh, he has mentioned, and CBI has mentioned the name of Mr. Shivraj Singh Chauhan in their charge sheet for the Vyapam scam, sir. Now, coming to, I'll ask you one question, sir, Honorable MP. From 2014 to 2022,
but did you not
investigating agencies, name me, and I challenge this on Independence Day on Times Now, one BJP person that has been investigated, one BJP leader that has been investigated. Secondly, after Dr. Ranganathan clearly exposed the dynasty of BJP, you went to biological family. So let me expose the biological family of BJP. Rajnath Singh, Pankaj Singh, Kailash Vijayvargiya, Akash Vijayvargiya, Ved Prakash Goyal, Piyush Goyal, Mr. Fadnavis and his son Devendra Fadnavis, PK Dhumal, Anurag Thakur, Vasundhara Raje, Dushyant Singh. This is just 5-6 names I have mentioned. So again, all in all, even though the Prime Minister's speech was fantastic, was encompassing all the issues of the country, but it is high time the Prime Minister introspect his own party, because जो शीशे के घर में रहते हैं वो दूसरों पे पत्थर नहीं फेंका करते.
चलिए मैं आपकी बात मान भी लेती हूँ, रिजू दत्ता जी, मैं आपकी बात मान लेती हूँ, पर फिर भी आपसे पूछती हूँ, क्या जो 5 प्रॉमिसेस 5 प्रण प्रधानमंत्री ने लिए उसमें कुछ गलत है? और साथ में उन्होंने जो कहा कि we need to fight corruption and parivarvaad, anything wrong in what he said? Should we as a country not aspire to go towards that? Yes or no?
I will give you a straightforward answer, Navika ji. Even if you say those 5 points, I will agree with you. I agree with the Prime Minister. I differ on one point, where he says every citizen of the country should do their duty. सबको अपना धर्म पालन करना चाहिए. सर, हम धर्म पालन करेंगे, but देश की जनता ने वोट देके आपको चुना है. आपको याद दिला दे, बीजेपी का सबसे वरिष्ठ नेता, the most stalwart BJP politician I have ever known, Bharat Ratna Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee, told you and taught you to do Raj Dharma.
GVL Narshimha Rao,
first you learn
last
Raj
word, 30 seconds. I'm completely out of time. 30 seconds.
How will get away by attacking
from what I have heard from all the panelists of different parties, I think his speech has made a indelible impression and a deep impact even on the panelists, and I'm happy to note that. And certainly I expect Prime Minister is urging everyone to reform and transform the political landscape of this country. And when he talked about corruption, he did not name any party, but he did say there are political parties and leaders who have looted so much money they don't have enough space to keep their loot, while poor people have no roof over their heads. So it clearly, I could only
India
link it to the
is a country of contrast, and the Prime Minister today called on this country not just to demand somebody else to work for them, He just said that each one of us as a citizen needs to make our own contribution. And India at 75 is a strong, resurgent, aspirational India. But the Prime Minister also said this is the beginning of the Amrit Kal. And for the next 25 years, till we reach India at 100, we need to solve a few problems. Out of the 82-minute speech of the Prime Minister, possibly 2.5 or 3 minutes was spent on the issue of corruption and Parivarvaad. Why just these 3 minutes cause so much of rankling of the opposition? Well, it's a question we all must introspect about. Thank you very much to my panelists for joining me on the debate. On the other side, the best takeaways from the Prime Minister's speech from Red Fort this morning.